Welcome to the channel. Welcome to today's run through of all the latest Manchester United news and transfer updates, keeping you right up to date with everything. I'm Jamie. Before getting into it, smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and let's jump straight into it. So let's kick off with Jason Wilcox interview. So if you haven't seen it, MUTV, go check it out. Jason Wilcox, they've started like a new weekly podcast that I think they're going to be doing. Jason Wilcox was on there, and I like hearing from the hierarchy at United because for far too often we've just been kept in the dark around the inner workings, what's going on behind the scenes, how they feel, what's happening, all of this stuff. So I like the fact that Jason Wilcox has come out recently and given a few interviews. I think it takes the pressure off of Ruben Amorim as well. So I always listen intensely whenever I hear, from the higher ups at United, because for far too long, like we've heard literally still a peep from the Glazers, and they've been here for 20 years. I couldn't tell you what they sound like. Genuinely no idea what they sound like. But, so I encourage, and I'm all for this sort of thing when you hear about it. But I'm not going to go through it all. Check it out. If you've checked it out already, give us your thoughts on what you found interesting in the interview in the comments below. But I want to go through the recruitment. He was talking directly regarding the recruitment. So he said, when asked to describe how our recruitment works to the extent he is comfortable with, Jason reflects on his 18 months of work at the club. So he said, last year's summer transfer window 2024 was a lot more chaotic than this one, and this one was really calm. With this one, we knew the plan. We knew which players we were going to target. We had our list. We knew which area of the pitch we needed to improve. So I think he's alluding to the fact that obviously Ten Hag was there, but we didn't know whether Ten Hag was going to stay in 2024. Then we had Dan Ashworth coming in late. Obviously Wilcox, Christopher Vival, all of these people were all new. They didn't know quite their job roles, and their job roles has obviously changed since as well. So maybe there was a lot of upheaval in that particular summer. I think Ten Hag was difficult to deal with, according to reports behind the scenes, because of his veto that he had, and the club maybe wanted to go in one direction, he wanted to go in another direction, and it created like a bit of a clearly from Jason Wilcox said it was chaotic. Not that I think we had a particularly bad window that window. Ugarte, Dalit, Mazraoui, Xerxes, question marks over a couple of them, but in general, I think Dalit's been a good signing, Mazraoui's been a good signing, but you can see the proof in the fact that they have been more organised this summer and going after the right profile of players in Mbeumo, Cunha, Sesko Lamens. He mentions each of them in a second, which we'll run through, but I think he's alluding to that, maybe saying that, look, it was a bit chaotic because there was just a lot that happened in that 24 summer, because like I said, it started off, we didn't even know who we were going to have as manager, and everyone was coming in late, everyone had just arrived, but whereas now it's a lot more structured and a lot more planned as well, going off of his other quotes. So he went on to say there are continuous meetings with myself and Ruben Amorim, with Chris Vival and with his team underneath, where we are very clear on the profiles that we need. So the brief will come from myself and Ruben. It goes to Chris, and there's a lot of debate and discussion around the profiles that we need. And then the scouts will go into the market. We will combine that with the data team, and then there will just be constant dialogue. And I like that. Again, it's not exactly groundbreaking. I'm sure every team in the Premier League probably does their recruitment similar. But the fact United haven't been is what's led us to be in the mess before Ineos came in anyway, regarding transfers, where it was just a scattergun approach and there wasn't really any long-term planning. Sometimes there wasn't any planning at all. We would just sign players that a manager knew or used to play for, and so on and so forth. But now there is actually a structure to it, where Amorim and Wilcox will discuss which profile of players that they want. So i.e. Amorim might be saying, right, I need a wing back that can get forward and put crosses into the box, that can beat players one-on-one, for example, and then they'll take that to Chris Vival and say, right, this is the characters, these are the characteristics that we want in a player, this is the position. He'll send his scouts out to go and scout the player. They'll bring the profiles back. The data team will crunch all the numbers on it. Then they'll come up with a list and they'll talk about it and discuss who's available, the age, all of that stuff. And that's why, and that can only help us going forward. And I think the proof is with this summer, well, we have had, so I think Sesko's been good. Lamenta's been a good signing, and obviously Mbeumo and Cunha, fantastic signings so far as well. Long may that continue, because that's the right thing to do. Then you're not just signing players for the sake of signing players. You're not signing players for a manager, because if Amorim goes, you've still got the right structure in place. You've still got the right profile of players that you are looking for, because it's not just coming from Amorim. It's also coming from Wilcox as well, who is our director of football. And it can only be helpful. It can only be good, I think. So that's a positive for me. And again, embarrassing that we haven't been doing that, but we didn't even have a data team until recently. So that's how bad our recruitment has been, and that's some of the progress that we are making in that area, in my opinion. Anyway, you might have a different opinion. I'm sure you'll share it in the comments though if you do. And then he goes on to say, right now I'm having weekly meetings with the recruitment team on the different profiles, the age bracket, the cost, are they attainable, with Ruben as well. So it's a really joined up approach. When we sign a player, there are so many people that are involved in the process. The data team are involved in the process, and then we will focus our attention on certain players. It's really important that we then do background checks on whether they are clean living professionals. It's really important this year. We looked at Premier League ready players, and certainly with Brian and Mateus, we couldn't take too much risk in that area. We needed players that could plug in, we could plug in and play with little transition time. That was the benefit of going for Premier League experienced players this summer, especially in the attack, where we did need, and that was the mantra, wasn't it? That was what we were being reported. They're going to get Mbeumo and Cunha. Once you got Mbeumo and Cunha, they were then willing to take the risk on a younger striker in Benjamin Sesko, because they knew they had, those two experienced players that could maybe help him out. And then he goes on to say specifically on Sen-Lemans, we were always looking at goalkeepers we've got and that have got huge potential. Senny was available and we decided to move. It wasn't a knee-jerk reaction. Tony Cotton was putting Senny on my radar 12 months ago, and he was relentless with it. This guy's going to be a top signing for us, and he has started well, but he has to keep it going. He's very reflective, and he is very professional with his approach. Now, Tony Cotton, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, was also responsible for scouting David De Gea as well. And I did read somewhere, don't take what I'm going to say next with a pinch of salt, but I did read somewhere that he was against going for Andre Onana as well, but I can't remember whether that was somewhere that was bullshitty or somewhere genuine. But I do remember reading a report saying that they felt that his wrists were too strong or something, and that's why he kept palming the ball back into danger areas. But don't quote me on that. Take that with a pinch of salt. That's just that might be complete waffle from myself. But yeah, interesting. Tony Cotton saying that Sen-Lemans is the one to go for over a year ago, and then expanded on new boy Benjamin Sesko. He says Benny at the top end. He's going to be an amazing player. It's difficult to be the number 9 at United, and know sometimes. And I know that sometimes that Mateus and Brian are getting a lot of credit, but the runs that Benny is making is also helping Mateus and Brian as well. All 4 of them have done really well. The summer signings from last year are top professionals. So sticking up a little bit there for Benjamin Sesko, who has come under the cosh a little bit this week from Gary Neville's comments. I've seen some, hit pieces by Samuel Shitster and Lucas in the Sun and all this stuff as well, which I just think is complete and utter waffle, and picking on a United player for no apparent reason, in my opinion. I looked at the stats. Benjamin Sesko's made, in terms of minutes, he's played 6.5 games in terms of the actual minutes that he's played, right? And in those 6.5 games, he's got 3 goal contributions. So he's averaging a goal or an assist every other game. And if you deep it down like that, I know he had a bad game against Nottingham Forest, but who had a particularly good game, So I just think it's absolute waffle. But Jason Wilcox picking up on a good point. It's not just about the goals. It's how impactful he is at creating the space for Mbeumo to run into, or Mateus Cunha to go into as well. And that's something that you didn't get from Rasmus Højlund. His off-the-ball work, I think, has been really good. And I've got no issues with Benjamin Sesko whatsoever, regardless of what's being put out there by pundits in the media and stuff. But give us your thoughts and feelings on that in the comments below. But I felt really interesting interview from Jason Wilcox. I like the fact that, he's given a bit of insight into how the recruitment is working. It does feel and seem a lot more, you know, a lot more structured. There's a lot more thought going to it as well. And that can only be positive for us, because that way we're not then just signing names for the sake of signing names, or we're not signing players for a manager and then we sack a manager and then that next manager doesn't want that player. Like all of that stuff, hopefully we can avoid going forward. And like I said, I think we are seeing the benefits of that slowly but surely. Obviously, we want to do more. We want to get more players in, because we need better players in order to climb the league and get us back to where we want to be, competing for titles and winning Champions Leagues and all of that stuff. But that is going to take time and effort. But it looks like the effort is there anyway behind the scenes, and I like that. I like that sort of stuff, and hearing from the horse's mouth around what's going on as well. But give us your thoughts on that in the comments below. And if you've watched the interview, again, get involved in the comments. Let me know what you felt, or if you picked up on anything else as well. But right, let's go through a little bit of transfer news then. So this was really interesting, actually. I'm going to start with this. So this is coming from Dean Jones, who I've always found to be fairly decent with United news. On Man United are still making January plans. So it says United's more imminent plans are to sign a central midfielder in January, while they also have hope of finding a new wing-back option. A new backup striker is also going to join in either January or the summer, with the club still weighing up exactly which sort of profile to aim for in that area. There remains a possibility too that United replace Altay Bayindir with a new goalkeeper to back up and compete with Seny Lemons, who has quickly established himself as the number one. So in this report, he was basically saying, look, they'd want to go for a central defender as well, but that's going to be pushed back until the summer, because they believe they've got enough players or bodies in that particular area for now. So it's not going to be seen as a priority for the January transfer window, but could be something they look to do in the summer transfer window. But immediate plans: central midfielder in January, new wing back option, and a backup striker, or maybe another forward, because you could play Cunha up front if you had another number 10 potentially coming in. I don't know whether that would be if Xerxes goes, because obviously we don't know at this stage whether Joshua Xerxes is gonna be kept or whether he's going to be moved on in January. Obviously, if he goes, we're going to need to bring somebody in that area. But I actually cool with that. I think midfielder, definitely wing back. Wing backs, you know, a big concern, especially with AFCON and Mazraoui Ahmad going, is going to be a big concern. I think we need a wing back anyway to help balance the team out, because we can see the deficiencies with Dalot playing out of position there. Dorgu is still young and raw and developing, although I would like to see him get some more game time so he can develop and he can learn and he can go forward. But yeah, wing back is a bit of a concern. Potentially backup goalkeeper, depending on what happens with Bayindir. If he wants to go in January, maybe we'll bring somebody else in there. But again, it's a lot of business for January. But yeah, be interesting to see. And also saying on the striker, they don't know which profile to go for. That must be like whether we're going to go for another young striker or a more experienced striker, because there are rumours that we might be looking at somebody a bit more experienced to come in to help with Benjamin Sesko. Someone like Danny Welbeck's name keeps getting mentioned a bit, as well as an example, bringing in someone like Danny Welbeck, for example, to help with Benjamin Sesko. I would be against doing something like that. But again, I thought that was really interesting to see. Well, midfielder, wing back, and then depending on, you know, if Xerxes goes, maybe a striker or another forward. But yeah, give us your shouts on that in the comments below, as I am sure that you will. Now, in terms of actual names, let's go through a little bit more transfer news. So this, again, coming from Team Talk, is Fraser Fletcher, who is decent, but someone I would still say take with a pinch of salt. Saying Man United ready to launch a giant January bid for Elliot Anderson. They're confident Nottingham Forest will accept. Exclusive. That sounds like a clickbaity title if I've ever read one in my life. But Manchester United are intensifying their pursuit of Nottingham Forest midfielder Elliot Anderson, viewing him as a prime and realistic target for the January transfer window. And Team Talk can reveal an offer is being prepared. Sources close to United indicate that the Red Devils are confident of securing a deal, despite Forest's firm stance on demanding a substantial fee. I'm not going to go through it all, but it says club insiders reveal that the player himself would be very keen on a move to Old Trafford, attracted by the opportunity to compete at the highest level and the chance to immerse himself in the prestige of a Big Six club. The mutual interest could prove pivotal within negotiations, especially as United scout the market for affordable reinforcements amid financial fair play constraints. And then it goes on to say, however, Nottingham Forest have drawn a clear line in the sand: pay big money or back off. And it says that we understand Forest are setting their stall out at around £80 million mark. though United believe a deal can be struck for closer to 60 million. So this report is effectively saying that, look, United think they can do a deal for Elliot Anderson in January, and that a 60 million pound bid might be enough to force Forest to sell, but Forest are going to be looking for around the 80 million pounds mark. So again, Elliot Anderson just feels, I don't know, just feels a bit too far-fetched for a January deal. Summertime, then yeah, potentially I could see something like Elliot Anderson being definitely a viable option, but I don't know. January feels a little bit unrealistic to me, but who knows? Stranger things have happened. But give us your thoughts on that in the comments. In terms of Anderson, though, the biggest update came from Andy Mitten. Andy Mitten's very well connected when it comes to United, by the way, and this is on the Talk of the Devils podcast, which is like an athletic podcast as well. Very good. Go check it out. It said, I think Manchester United will go for 2 central midfield players, probably in the summer. Elliot Anderson is the one who would be well positioned at the moment for Manchester United. So he plays on his word very specifically and very cleverly, Andy Mitten, because he is well connected at United. He's been a journalist and covering them for years, has, you know, a reputation, is well liked, I think, by United as well, not a Billy bullshitter, and does some really thoughtful, insightful pieces as well, and is not one that like gossips or anything like that. So a really specific journalist. I think Andy Mitten, I really like Andy Mitten, to be fair, suggesting that we're going to look for 2 midfielders, probably in January. Probably in the summer. Unlikely in January, which, you know, depending on the profile of players for, is probably realistic. But they're also the play on the words with Anderson, well positioned at the moment. And again, I don't know whether that means there's something there, or whether it's just because he's playing well and we've just played them and he's putting himself in the shop window ahead of like Carlos Baleba, for example, because his performances so far this season have been a lot better than Carlos Baleba. So play on his words. So I don't know what he means there, but yeah, I can see Anderson being a top target for us as well. But according to Andy Mitten, more likely going to be this summer than January. But give us your thoughts on that in the comments below. Now, one player that might be, if you believe this next report, we might be looking to do in January is Carlos Baleba. Now, this has come from Indy Kalir, who I am not on the bandwagon about. You know, I've said that before. He did get something right in the summer, though, and was shouted out by David Ornstein. And ever since then, every aggregator account online's reposting him. He's even starting to make it into mainstream like media or news outlets now as well. I've always found everything they've said since has been complete waffle, personally, but you can believe what you want. Saying exclusive, we have got it on good authority that Man United and Brighton are once again negotiating for the transfer of Carlos Baleba. Man United owners are willing to spend £90 million on the player. Green light given to submit official bid. So according to Indy Clear, if you rate them or believe them, they're suggesting that United are willing to spend £90 million on Baleba, and we're close to making an official bid, which I'm personally going to file in the BS bin. I'm going to put it down there in the BS bin personally. I'll probably tell you to take it with a pinch of salt because, like I said, I don't necessarily rate the source personally, but it is doing the rounds, not just online now, though. I've seen it in like the Manchester Evening News and places like that as well. So yeah, one to pay attention to, but give us your thoughts and feelings on that in the comments below, as I am sure that you will. Now, another player that might be more plausible, and is starting to get a lot of, you know, the reports and the stories around him are starting to ramp up, is Alajbegović, the young winger from RB Salzburg. So this is now coming from Sport Bild, and Sport Bild are a good German news outlet, saying that Manchester United have been scouting RB Salzburg youngster Kerim Alajbegović intensively. Signing him will be problematic, though. He's considered the best player in the Austrian league, and top clubs are already scouting him. Manchester United are one of those who are scouting him intensively. There have been no change. They have no chance of signing him, though. Leverkusen are aware of Manchester United's interest and plan to move ahead of them. They're determined to ensure Alajbegović is theirs, even if it means loaning him out somewhere next season first. So Sport Bild are suggesting that United are intensively scouting this kid, but also that Bayern Leverkusen, I'm sure he came from Bayern Leverkusen, correct me if I'm wrong though in the comments, but Bayern Leverkusen feel that they can get a deal done, maybe with a loaning him back, buying him, loaning him back, or loaning him somewhere else to help him with his development as well. So that's an interesting one to keep an eye on. And obviously we've got a connection there with the RB group, and Christopher Vivel being our obviously head of recruitment will know the player, or know somebody at the club that knows a bit more around the player as well. So that's one that's to pay worth paying attention to as well, because there have slowly been a few more stories and reports around this kid. I wouldn't be against it. I've said before, I do think we're missing, that profile of player, like a young, pacey player to bring in and, bring on at the end of games. And I don't know whether he could be converted into a wing back, whether he would want to be converted into a wing back as well. So I mentioned that in the comments the other day, and it's a good shout. Some players might not want to come to United and be changed into wing back, which is a perfectly valid shout as well. But yeah, worth paying attention to. There's a lot more noise regarding him anyway, and I'll keep an eye on it, and that might be one to pay attention to. But give us your thoughts and feelings on that in the comments below, as I'm sure that you will. Now, another player that we could already have the club that would fit the bill of what I just mentioned there, young, developmental, pacey, and is Shea Lacey. So this is coming from Chris Wheeler in the Mail, saying Ruben Amorim is taking a hands-on approach with Shea Lacey's progression towards the first team. The 18-year-old is yet to make his first team debut, but as previously detailed in this column, he is widely seen as the next one off the conveyor belt of academy talent. Goes on to say, confidential, exclusively revealed how Amorim and Lacey have had numerous one-to-one conversations around the training ground in recent weeks, and his increasing involvement in the first team group has seen a greater focus on mapping out his route to a debut. And it goes on to say, for Lacey, who is best suited playing as in a right attacking midfield role, the aim is to play a part of the first team when Brian Mbeumo, Diallo, Mazraoui head off to the AFCON, which begins on December 21st. So according to Chris Wheeler in the Daily Mail, he's suggesting that Shea Lacey is potentially going to be given some opportunities when, or is hoping to be given some opportunities when, AFCON starts and we lose Mbeumo, Ahmad, and Mazraoui. And it does feel that way, actually. It feels like something's brewing maybe with Shea Lacey, the fact that he is coming in and training a lot with the first team, the fact that he is having a lot of interactions with Ruben Amorim. They really rate him. They really like him. He's a fantastic young player. Scored again yesterday as well. So, yeah, I can see that being plausible. And that's the sort of profile of player that I'm talking about. Something that we're missing, somebody that can come on and have a little bit of flair about them, have a little bit of, naivety, where they're not scared to make mistakes and not scared and not afraid to run at players, and, do the unpredictable things is something that I think we're missing. But yeah, interesting one to keep an eye on. Give us your thoughts on Shea Lacey in the comments below. Do you think he's ready for the step up? Do you think that would be a good move? Good shout, bad shout? Let me know in the comments below, as I'm sure that you will. Now let's go for the exit news. So this is regarding Sancho, coming from Alex Crook, saying that Manchester United are ready to write off any hopes of getting a transfer fee for £70 million flop. Jadon Sancho, United have resigned to allow the England international to leave for free next summer, 1 year ahead of schedule. United are leaning towards cutting their losses with Sancho completely rather than risk being saddled with another year of his wages of around £200,000 a week. So Sancho's out of contract in the summer. We have an option though for a +1 on him, and there's rumours and there's been debate as to whether we would do the +1 and maybe look to sell him in the summer so we can generate a transfer fee for him rather than letting him walk out for free. According to Alex Crook, though, they're not going to do that. They are now prepared to do that +1, just bite the bullet, fuck him off and get rid of his wages and just be gone of that entire situation. And to be fair, I'm cool with that. Either way, I don't think it makes a massive difference personally, because who's to say if we did the +1, he's going to want, the little shit's going to want to go anyway, because he's ended up on loan the last 2 seasons, refused to contract at Chelsea. They ended up having to come back, and now he's on loan again. Like, I don't think he wants to give up his wage. He does not want to give up his Man United salary. So if we did the +1, it's going to be another loan again, and then we're still paying majority of his wages or some of his wages for another year. Like, it makes no sense. Let's just be gone. Let's just, write it off. It is what it is. Worst signing, in my opinion, in Manchester United's recent history anyway. And we've had some pretty bad ones. By far the worst signing. Let's just get rid and be gone. And then we can all move on with our lives. But give us your thoughts and feelings on that in the comments below. Give us your thoughts on all the other topics discussed in today's video, because that's you all up to date with the latest news and transfer updates. Don't forget to smash a like on the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. See you in the next one.